But let's look at our first example, number 1. Seller calls you with a house worth $150,000 in good condition. He's asking $145,000. He is free and clear. And after pre-screening him, you find out he'd be willing to owner finance with a 10% down payment. So he's asking $150,000 or $145,000. It's worth $150,000. He wants $14,500 down, which would leave a mortgage that the seller would take back, and this will be a first mortgage in this case, of $130,500. And the seller is asking for 9%. He wants a 30-year amortization, but he wants a 10-year balloon. Is that an abnormal deal? Seller's asking for almost retail price, asking for a pretty good sized down payment, willing to finance at 9%, which is even higher than bank rate, isn't it? Today, as at the time of this taping, the bank rate is 8.5% fixed. Okay? And you come back with an offer. Now remember, this house is only worth $150,000, and you're offering the seller $140,000. Are you stealing this house? No way. Nobody in their right mind pay $140,000 for a house worth $150,000, would they? Except me. Because I've just changed the offer a little bit. Instead of giving the seller $14,500 down, I decided that I'll go ahead and give the seller $5,000 down. And if I can get over that hurdle, we got a deal, because I'm sure that price ain't going to be a problem. Only asking for a $5,000 reduction in price. Now, is that a lot to ask the seller for? Think about it. If that seller was selling that house for $145,000 through a realtor, how much reduction in price would they get? 7% like that, wouldn't they, for commission? So I'm not going to have any problem getting him down $5,000. In fact, the truth is, in real life, I'd go much lower than that. But this makes a good example, because this example will work on this very conservative approach. All right? I offer him $5,000 down. If I can't get over that hurdle and he insists on more than that, I probably won't do the deal. But I'm exchanging almost retail price for lowering the down payment. And if I do that, that means the seller's taking back a first mortgage or a first trust deed. In this case, I'm going to ask him to take it back at 7% instead of 9% for 30 years, and I'm going to give him his 10-year balloon. With payments of $898.16, with the first one due 3 months from the date of closing. Now, why would I do that? Because now I've got 3 months without a payment. Even if I sell this house 3 days from now, folks, and they start making me a payment 30 days from then, I still got 3 payments that I don't have to make. So I've just made myself almost another $3,000 by wagging my tongue. And even if I don't sell it immediately, I got 3 months. Can you see any problem selling a gorgeous house in a nice neighborhood with no qualifying owner financing, which you're delivering, with a reasonable down payment in 3 months? Hello? How long should it take you to sell these kind of houses with no qualifying financing? A week if you don't have a buyer's list. If you don't have a buyer's list. Question in the back. Yes?
During the 3 months, when you're not making a payment, is he accumulating interest? The buyer?
I didn't offer him any such thing. I said payments due in 3 months. I would say, that, the way I would word it is this. Interest to begin 2 months after closing. Then the payment would be due 3 months, wouldn't it? Interest has to accrue for a month before it's due. Folks, I almost never have a problem when there's no underlying payment getting a seller to take back a loan and giving me 2 or 3 months free. Almost never. Even when I'm doing a second mortgage and the seller's got a first mortgage, I'll agree to make the first mortgage payment, but I'll get several months on the second mortgage before I have to start paying him. I almost never have a problem with that. I can't remember where it's ever been a deal killer. If you ask for it, you usually get it. And if the seller comes back and says, well, why do you need so much time? Because I need time to find me a good qualified occupant. And I don't want to make payments till I do. It's never been a problem for me. Okay? All right, I made this offer. And let's assume it got accepted. Now what do we do? What? Panic. Well, that'd be the normal thing to do. However, how much money have I got in the seller's hands right now? I didn't tell you, did I? Oh, let's say it took $100. It took $500. What's the worst going to happen to this point? Okay, folks, anybody who won't go close on a $150,000 house that you can get into for $5,000 and get no qualifying financing with a payment at 7%, don't understand the program. At this point, you have zero risk. First of all, the title's got to be good or you get your deposit back. Any contract says that. Any contract. You got no risk here. You've got such an easy sale. You set up such a slam dunk sale here. They're going to be crawling all over you to buy this house. So let's look at see how we're going to sell it. Remember what I said earlier about, first of all, what's this house worth? 150. So therefore, when I'm supplying no qualifying financing and my buyer doesn't have to go to the bank and the only thing they need to get in this house is a down payment that suits me and the ability to make the payments to my justification, what should I sell it for? More. What do you mean more? More than 150? But it won't appraise for more. You mean I can sell it for more than it'll appraise for? Well, how much would you sell it for? 160. Boy, that takes nerve. House will only appraise for 150 and I'll sell it for 160. Let me ask you, I'm taking it easy on him, I really am. Let me ask you a question. If you're an appraiser, is this house worth more because I'm providing no qualifying financing than one sitting right beside it exactly like it that requires bank financing? Yes, it is. Not only in my opinion, but in the real world. Has any of you ever been asked by an appraiser, was there any owner financing involved when he was doing an appraisal on one of your properties or one of your comps? They asked that because if there was owner financing involved, they realized that it could have been sold for more than on if traditional financing terms were used. The truth is, if I am providing such sweet financing, it really is worth more, not just because I decided to jack up the price. Is it worth more to my buyer? Truth is, I probably could sell it for more than 160, couldn't I? But I want to be kinder and gentler. So I'm just going to put a $160,000 price on it. All right? How much do you think I ought to get down from this buyer? All right, let's examine that. Let's suppose that I'm selling a $160,000 house and I got a squeaky clean buyer. Excellent credit, debt ratio's right in line. And they're going down to the bank and they're getting a loan. How much money will they need, folks? Would you say, and I mean, if they walk on water, they're going to need 5% plus closing costs, aren't they? Hello? Which comes out to probably, what would you think, probably 12, 13,000 easy? Huh? 5% plus closing costs, 5% is what? 9,000 in itself, isn't it? 8,000, okay? And then closing costs, they're going to have $12,000, $13,000 in buying this house. And that's the least, that's the cheapest they can get in, and they got to be squeaky clean to get 95% financing nowadays, don't they? Okay? More commonly, they're going to need 10% down plus closing costs, aren't they? I mean, if they got one little blemish on their credit report, they're going to need 10% plus closing costs, which means they're going to need about $20,000. Do you think maybe if I can circumvent all that now and the only thing standing between my buyer and getting this house is what I request down, that I could at least ask what the market would bear down if they were qualified? In fact, the truth is, could I ask considerably more and get it? Yes. How many of you have ever run a no qualifying ad or an owner financing ad?
We have more calls and more people with more money than we can handle.
In fact, don't you get calls a month after you cancel the ad?
It hasn't been a month yet, but we're still getting calls.
Still getting calls. Okay, it's amazing. You can cancel the ad. You think they throw away the paper, wouldn't you? They don't. They bug you to death. You run a no qualifying ad. You put owner financing or no qualifying in your ads and see what happens. Who else has run some? Okay? What happened?
Well, I sold the houses.
Well, thank you. Did you get a lot of calls?
Oh, yeah, I got plenty of calls.
No banks required?
Yep.
And that was your first word you had?
Yep.
I never tried that.
Oh,
Y'all ought to write that down, try it. No banks required. That might even be better, no qualifying. I don't know.
At the retail house.
Have you? Okay. What'd you get?
I found people with as high as $40,000 down.
What price range houses?
This is about 130.
130? Okay. So what you're telling me is then by running the ad and doing the right things by pre-screening those callers, you'll find a whole heap of people with great big chunks of cash, but their credit sucks. Isn't that true? Exactly. And what's more important to us, the cash or the credit? Cash. In this business, that is. Cash. You bet. So, we are providing a beautiful home in a beautiful area. We're asking only $20,000 down in our example on a $160,000 house, and we're offering our buyer payments of $1,228 a month on a $160,000 house. Do you think we're going to have any trouble selling it? If they went down to the bank and got financing, would they have at least the $1,228 payment? Say yes, Ron.
Yes, Ron.
Have you done your buyers a tremendous favor? We should wear white hats, shouldn't we? We're definitely the good guys. Okay? Now, in this example, I'm telling you, folks, you ain't got to worry about selling this baby. You got to worry about fighting them off. You could get more down, and you could get more per month. Now, what we're going to do here is what we call a wraparound mortgage, or an all-inclusive trust deed, or an agreement for deed, or a land contract. It depends on where you live, and it's irrelevant what document you use. It all accomplishes the same thing. In this course, there will be plenty of material on all of those documents, how to use them, and the documents included in there. All right? So what we're done here is we're creating a debt owed us by our buyer for $140,000, and we still owe out $135,000 to our seller, don't we? But watch the results here, folks. Have we created a massive spread? Have we created a big equity in this deal? No. We owe out $135,000. They owe us $140,000. That's no big equity, is it? But let's see what our profit centers are. Profit center number one. Did we not get $15,000 profit from the difference between the $5,000 we paid the seller and the $20,000 we got from the buyer? Hello? Yeah. How many days from the time the ink dried on the agreement that we bought to buy the house do you think it would take us to get the seller in the house and get the money in our hand? The answer is it depends on whether the house is vacant when we found it and whether the seller needs to move out of the house before we can sell it. And you'll do it both ways. That's why I love vacant houses, by the way. I love them vacant because I know I got immediate access and I got immediate closing if I need to. But I've probably bought just as many occupied as I have vacant. Occupied, you deal around the seller. If it's occupied, you should have a buyer ready to go as soon as the seller moves out. Or if you close before the seller moves out, you could physically close with your buyer and let them move in when the seller gets out. It can be done any number of several ways. It really depends on your seller's needs. If your seller needs the money to move, you might want to close before the seller gets out. If the seller doesn't need the money to move, you might want to wait till the seller's out before you close. In fact, I prefer that. Okay. Monthly spread. You're paying out $898.16 per month, and you're collecting $1,228.60 per month. That means that you're making $330.44 per month on a house you do not own anymore. Now, how long will you make that $344 per month? You'll make it for at least the 10 years before your seller's balloon comes due, won't you? Incidentally, if you sell this house, do you have to put a balloon in your mortgage that you're taking back? I would suggest it. If you got a 10-year balloon due your seller, you best have less than 10 years due from your buyer, folks. Common sense would dictate that. So within 10 years, your buyer's got to either go sell the house to somebody who go gets a new loan, or they got to go refinance it. So you're passing that on here. Okay? Third avenue of income is the absolute least you can make on the back end is is $5,000 because they owe you $140 and you owe out $135. That's the least you can make on that back end. And the truth is, before I'm through, I'm going to show you how to increase that back end profit tremendously by discounting this mortgage. And this is the example that I'm going to use, so keep this one in mind. I'll set it aside and we'll come back to it when we talk about that. All right? That is type of property number one, where it's free and clear and the seller will finance the entire balance with a down payment of some sort. Or perhaps you think that there aren't any of those out there. Are there any of those where you live?
Oh, yeah.
Any of them in Cleveland? Maybe not, John. Won't work in Cleveland. There's a lot of houses out there free and clear, folks. A lot of them. Especially owned by elderly. Question in the back.
Okay, on these here, when you're going back to the seller, okay, then you've got to be sure that they're going to be willing to do that wrap before you can do this type of financing.
Oh, no, you missed something.
I must have.
Does my seller have to know or have a clue what I'm going to do? All my seller needs to know is that I'm going to pay him $880-some odd a month for 30 years with the 10-year balloon at 7% interest. What I do with it after they sign the deed to me is none of their business. And what she's concerned about is the due on sale clause that would be in most notes and mortgages.
And
she thinks that I need the seller's permission to transfer title to this property. Isn't that correct?
If you don't have due on sale.
I won't have a due on sale clause, or in a minute I'll show you how to handle it if I do have a due on sale clause. Okay? Good question. Yeah. Not going to stop me, but good question. Okay.